Hello, everybody, and I'm Luca Ricci. It's a pleasure for me to be with Luca and Shanna, who are both the authors of one of the performances co-produced in the framework of this European cooperation project called Be SpectACTive. I'm the artistic director of CapoTrave Kilowatt, a festival, a center for creative resiliency, and also the project leader of this amazing European project. And Shanna and Luke are preparing a new production called Root. So we will speak with them about their previous career, the work together and the work alone they did before now. And we will discuss together the themes of the production Roots and also their vision of the current period. So, starting from the beginning, you are working together since 2018, so you are a new artistic couple, but you are continuing also in your specific works alone. So how was your meeting? I remember it was facilitated by Dublin Theatre Festival. That is also one of our partner, the partner in charge for the co-production. But tell us how it happened.
Yeah, so we met, as you said, in 2018 through a program that the Dublin Theatre Festival run annually called The Next Stage, which is an artist development program. And Shanna and I met during this period, and we went to see a lot of work together as part of the group of artists that we were part of. We got to participate in a lot of workshops and masterclasses and got to kind of see what each other were about. And after that, after this period, we decided to make a project together the following year called Mold into Shape, which was a project looking at our consumption of plastic and the various uses of plastic in Ireland, which brought the audience on a train from the city centre to a beach. And so after this time, Shanna and I began working together and have been for the last couple of years. We're devised theatre makers, so we make performances that the focus of our work kind of stretches out new conversations on the environment through non-conventional theatre forms, I think.
And this topic of environment, Shanna, is really central in your interests.
Yeah, so Luke and myself are really interested in sort of the intercontextualization of science and art. Neither of us come from a scientific background, but from the project we did on plastic, we became interested. We were speaking to a lot of scientists to make that soundscape. And when speaking to the scientists, they were bringing up a lot of things about trees, and that kind of sent us on the journey of Root, and that Ireland unfortunately has the lowest tree cover in the EU. So this was a statistic that we learned through the making of Mold into Shape, the project focusing on plastic. And that shifted our focus to trees then. So working with the environment and that being sort of the catalyst of our project, each time that we make a project, there's almost the process gives us the idea for the next thing to make.
Okay, and trees are in the center of the research of Root too. I mean, tree in your declaration, your statement at the beginning of the project is written, tree are the key for the climate's revival. Why these thoughts, and so which are the topics of the new production?
Yeah, so I think that was a quote from Dr. Kevin O'Connor, who was one of the scientists we met, who we interviewed as part of Mold into Shape. And he was basically saying that we need to know more about trees in general, and we need to plant more of them. And so the idea for, we're interested in, particularly as Irish theatre makers, we're interested in this idea that Ireland was once a forest and people lived on the edge of the forest and it was completely covered. And how did we get to the point where in this year we have one of the lowest tree covers in Europe? So I suppose in terms, that's the catalyst in terms of the subject of the production of Root. And the form is ever evolving as we sort of make our way through these times and begin to look at COVID-19 as a provocation, I suppose, artistically, about how we present the work to an audience and how we bring an audience into the work. And so in the meantime, we are also a big part of our work is environmental legacy. And so that has featured very strongly in all of the pieces that we've made so far. And with Root, we really wanted to actively plant more trees as part of the process. So we are in the process of planting a forest at the end of this month or in early March. We were gifted 1,000 Indigenous Irish trees, which will be planted in the Midlands very soon. So this,
yeah, we're working with sort of a demesne or a castle in the middle of Ireland, and we have been working hard. We were gifted 1,000 Indigenous Irish trees, so we're working with the gardeners in this castle to have them planted in March, and it's a very exciting venture because some of the trees that are being planted are in very low levels in Ireland. So this sort of micro forest is not only brilliant for biodiversity, but also sort of it's an archive of trees that are being lost to Ireland.
Looking at all your projects and specifically focusing on Root, I see that you are really interested on working in rural areas. So rural Ireland is strongly important for you.
Yeah, both Luke and myself are from the centre of Ireland, which has a very specific environment called the bog, which is actually a sunken forest. So it's a very large sort of epic landscape of black soil, which is basically rotted trees. And for many years it was used as a fuel source for fires, and there was a big company there, or it's still partly there, called Bord na Móna, and the bog has a huge history dating back to sort of Neolithic, the timestamps go really far back. So myself and Luke grew up in this landscape, and also a very rural place, so lots of farming and sort of a very beautiful place. So we're very interested in that landscape, and then also us as artists sort of being centered in a city for our work, but kind of having a pull towards a country life. So we like to bring our audiences outside of the city to show them what else is out there, because you know, I think the stat is that by 2050, 70% of the world's population will live in cities, which is a huge amount of people. And so we're trying to draw people back out.
So this is something we have in common, because also in my case, I'm living in a city, it's Rome, and I'm from a rural areas in Tuscany. It's completely different, but similar to the area you were describing before. So I really understand this idea of bringing people outside from the big cities to discover the potentiality of rural areas. So also the journey is important for you. This idea of traveling together for reaching an external area of the city. Am I right?
Yes. Yeah. Well, in the project we mentioned previously, Mold into Shape, we brought an audience from the city centre on a train towards a suburban beach. So this idea of bringing an audience on a journey from one point to the other is very interesting to us. Yeah.
And what is happening in this previous work, but probably probably in Route 2 will happen is the centrality of the sound.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so that's something that is ever more shifting with Route, because we, with the extension of Route being moved to sort of October 2021, we also made a soundscape this summer in 2020 called 1000 Miniature Meadows, where audiences or listeners experienced a soundscape in their gardens, looking at the biodiversity decline in Ireland. And they became a network of 1,000 planters, and at the end of the sound experience they planted a miniature meadow in whatever site that they chose. So so we went from mold into shape into 1000 miniature meadows, and both myself and Luke currently were like, do we sort of have a yearning to make maybe something that isn't so sound specific, and also maybe something that may not take place on a journey or in the outdoors, and we're kind of figuring how to bring the scale of a forest indoors.
To create the static piece, perhaps, that yes, that brings an audience to an off-site location, but not necessarily outdoors. But we are exploring different forms that the work could take at the moment, and how the audience are in that.
And if it will be possible to travel, what do you think? How do you think to work during the period of creative residency you have to do in San Sepolcro, of course, but also in Novi Sad and Vienna?
That's right. Yeah. Well, we. Do you mean in terms of how the time will be structured?
Yeah, more or less. And also, what do you want to capture in these venues, in this context, from your work in sound, also in the relationship of the local community?
Yeah, well, I think we are, because our work tends to, we're quite interested in attempting for the work to hand over the microphone to nature, and this quite frequently happens in our projects to date. And we're thinking of, in terms of Route, is how do we hand the microphone over to other people, to scientific experts and researchers, and tree doctors and lots of different people. So really the time will be focused on meeting and conducting interviews and having conversations with lots of people in the local community in each area, and figuring out what kind of what the situation is with tree coverage in that country, and as well about in terms of biodiversity and basically other nations' stories in terms of forestry and the journeys that they've gone on, and being able to locate and identify people and have conversations with them towards the creation of Route. Because I think we are very eager to, while the starting point is Ireland for us, we are very eager to make a piece of work that resonates, you know, across the world, because of you know, the active planting of trees is something that is a solution to a global kind of climate issue.
And do you think that the current situation, I'm referring to the pandemic and the difficulty of moving and being in contact with people, can influence in positive or negative ways your way of working?
Yeah, I think it, to have the privilege to travel out, even we'll see how we get to it in the summer, but the connectivity of being able to connect up with the Be SpectACTive partners, I think will have a huge sort of influence on the work, and we're very much excited about that. Like what Luke was saying, we want the work has such an Irish specific focus, but it's very important to fold that out. Something that I'm looking at the moment is the idea of biomimicry, and how we can look at different sort of patterns in nature to then influence into the form of the work. So how it can be the beginning, middle and end. And I think in terms of traveling or learning about trees in different cultures or how people are reading the work, we can just sort of keep on feeding it back in.
And how has changed your everyday life and your way of making art in this period?
Yeah, well, I suppose there's without I don't want to say it's been fine or anything, because it has had huge challenges, in some ways. And I suppose working in the arts and working in theatre, there is a whole social side to it that has just kind of completely disappeared. So it is a lot more individual, but I suppose myself and Shanna are very lucky because our work has never previously existed in a building. We've never been rooted to a building or a stage or to a specific location. We've always, since we began working together, our work has existed in off-site locations, and the forms of the work have tended to be kind of unusual in that we've kind of stretched and bended what theatre means. So our work has continued to exist, and we've been able to work together, to make work. And I suppose we have, well, I can't speak for both of us, but I've certainly taken the time at the moment as a provocation to imagine, how work gets made at the moment. And it has had good things, as well as the negatives.
Yeah, I think Luke and myself kind of have a bit of a laugh, because the last works that we made pre-pandemic were very much they could have existed during the pandemic. So we were whatever happened, the form of works that we were making were social distanced in a way. And now through the pandemic, our practice is changing, where these social distance performances that happened were we want to bring everyone back together again. So the impact has been kind of going from outdoor work, hopefully into making something that's indoor or in a static space.
And I ask you a short answer now. Which is the key concept you will bring with you after this period? The key word or the key concept that you learned in this particular and difficult period?
Yeah, for me, it was definitely the key word would be to be in tune, that everything already exists, and you just have to keep your eye and ear out to gather it and put it into a form.
And this is something strongly linked also with the idea of root.
Yes, yeah, keep tuning in. The trees have been there much longer than I.
Yeah. And Luke, which is yours?
I don't know if there's a way to describe this, but I see it as an image of us standing beside a very, very big mountain, and the mountain is much, much bigger than us, and it's kind of just about accepting the mountain is bigger than us and just enjoying where you are and enjoying what the situation is at the given moment. So I don't know if that answers the question, but I've
another naturalistic images.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's kind of like you're looking in and what is to create something that's successful or success, or what this has taught us is you can only make, and you just need to move with it, keep moving with it.
Okay, thank you very much. It was really a pleasure to discuss, to have the opportunity to discuss with you, and I'm looking forward to host you in Italy as soon as it will be possible. And so thank you very much.